the learning zone. You get the education for all. Gyanwani, Gyanwani, education at your doorstep. It's only on Gyanwani.
I am Professor Vibhuti Patel, Head of the Department of Economics in Mumbai from SNDT Women's University. Now we come to the question of demographic transition theory. There are various theories and measurements of fertility and its control. Demographic transition theory has focused economic explanations of phenomenon of fertility within the marriage, because that's a criticism which gender economics is making, because in a society where you have a massive teenage pregnancy within the marriage and outside marriage, so many unwed mothers are there in the below as child mothers. Most research ignores the role of nuptiality, timing of marriage and rate of childbearing after marriage. They are influenced by different factors. For example, in a traditional societies, children are seen as a source of labor. Child labor is a part of the system in a household production in a pre-industrial society. Children are also seen as investment for parental support in old age. Who will look after you? Because there is no state security. In the pre-industrial society, child is seen as a support. Or child is also seen as insurance against uncertain environment, because you don't know whether floods or famine or killer disease or infectious disease may kill. So if you have more children, you are more secure, because that's what we see after every disaster. Couples are refusing for family planning methods. After tsunami, so many couples lost all their children in tsunami waves, and they opted for recanalization operation offered by the government. And after recanalization, they produced 2, 3, 4 children, and they refused to opt for small family norm, because they were so devastated and they were so psychologically shattered that again there will be tsunami and their children may be killed. So that's very important. Children are also seen as to enhance physical security of the family. Like you ask a poor family head of the household, what that person would say, that okay, the overall income of the household is so low. So one child would work in a tea shop and bring some 800-900 rupees. Other girl child will work as a domestic worker. Third child will work in some child labor industrial estate. Fourth child will do the domestic work or stand in a queue for ration and stand in a queue for water. So economic deprivation also creates a condition where parents see child as an economic unit. Once the society moves from pre-industrial to industrial society, the modernization of societies changes the economics of childbearing. The whole political economy of childbearing and the function of children, it changes, so that larger numbers of children are seen as disadvantages in the modern family, because you have to invest in a child's education, child's extracurricular activity and child's future. So fertility decline is rational in the modern society, and fertility lags. Shift from familial mode of production reduces the utility of child labor, because if you have a family labor, each and every member of the family is occupied. You go to the house of a potter or weaver or agricultural household, every family member would be doing some work or the other according to their gender and age. Children would be collecting fuel or fodder or water. Women are looking after animals. Elderly women are cutting vegetables. Elderly men they are taking the herds, their animals for grazing. So every member in the household works. So more members you have, more household works get done. That is the understanding of pre-industrial society. But in the industrial society, that whole shift comes because the production is no more home based. You go out to factory or office to earn your wages or salary. Mass education reduces availability of children for labor, because in the modern society education is a must. Children are going to schools and they can't be roped in for labor. There are laws in place against child labor. New forms of investment and insurance in a modern times also doesn't make you so dependent on child's income, okay, because you think about your future. So the role of children in the modern society changes, and that's why the number of children that modern couples would have or the urban couples would have would always be small. Because you have to invest in a child, you can't extract anything from the child. While there is a marital fertility decline theory which explains that it has its bearing on the European model, that fertility is a conscious choice. In a modern times, for how many children you want to have, at what interval, and whether you want to have children or not, that is decided by, it is a conscious choice. Women's education, women's career awareness, women's individuality also comes in place, because they say, women say, it is my body. I'll decide whether I want to get married or not, whether I want to have children or not, whether how many children do I want one child or more than one child, at what spacing should I have between two children. Everything it becomes a conscious decision. Second, effective technique of fertility reduction is also there. We have a contraceptive revolution in the 60s. India was the first country in the world to have adopted family planning as a policy. Here we must understand the difference between birth control and family planning. Birth control is a measure taken by couple about what type of methods of contraception they will use, whether they will use invasive method like sterilization and copper-T, or whether they will use barrier method like Nirodh and diaphragm, or whether they will go by natural cycle and this thing. So this kind of awareness is very important. And third is that the reduced fertility must be perceived to be advantageous in the modern times, that if you have less number of children, you can give them quality education, you can give more personal attention to them, and they will turn out to be a good, successful citizens in future. Like whole campaign that India had right from 1950, because in 1950 India adopted family planning as the policy, and in all plan documents what approach the country takes, like only in the first 5-year plan India had barrier method, like Nirodh was promoted, and Jawaharlal Nehru as a role model who had only one daughter was projected, and all educated enlightened Indian men were targeted to use contraception for less number of children, but that did not work. Second 5-year plan onwards we see increasing targeting of women for contraception. Small family has become the responsibility of a woman, but we forget that women doesn't have a choice in decision making within the family about how many children to take. It is the mother-in-law, father-in-law, relatives, kinship, husband, they are the ones who decide how many children these women will have. So in the second 5-year plan, the plan allocation was made for formation of 30,000 Mahila Mandals, so that through Mahila Mandals we could convey to these women that small family is the best family. In the third 5-year plan, mother and child approach was adopted 5-year plan, because if you have a maternal mortality reduces, maternal health improves, and the child survival rate increases, then women would automatically opt for less number of children, because that was the time where average Indian woman had to produce 6 children to see to it that 2 of them reached adulthood, because the child mortality was very high, because in the growing process child may die due to jaundice or some other waterborne disease or cholera or typhoid or fever, and the public health system was not so strong. Now in the fourth 5-year plan, India decided to promote more invasive technology, doctor-centered technology, because people would not use contraception on their own. So IUD, intrauterine device, and sterilization was operated. In the fifth 5-year plan, the aggressive promotion of male sterilization became politically very, very uncomfortable for ruling party. So the experience of excesses during emergency have been officially also accepted both by the ruling party and the opposition, and we have seen that sixth 5-year plan onwards, government of India or the family planning policy did not target much men, because that becomes politically very uncomfortable proposition. So women became target for population control and population contraception. We have seen that introduction of hormone-based contraceptives, long-acting contraceptives, has been a bone of contention, and we have now cafeteria approach. World Health Organization also talks about the cafeteria approach. You have a menu of various technologies for assisted reproduction, for contraception, for sex selection, and for genomics, manipulation of genes. So all these new reproductive technologies, we have a galore in our economy. Now, how do we see the demographic transitions theory here? Like, if you see the classical transition theory, demographic transition theory projected by Thompson or Davis or Notestein, fertility decline with urbanization and undermining of traditional values which not allowing women to work, not allowing women to go out on their own, not investing in women's education. These are the traditional approaches. Once you undermine the traditional values, women's individuality, women's education, women's self-dependence, economic self-dependence also brings a different type of attitude towards fertility. Now you have countries where you have 100% literacy, whole of East Europe, whole of White Russia. You have highly literate, highly educated women who are not producing a single baby. You have countries where birth rate is negative. There is no birth taking place. Among the only immigrants are producing babies, the local population is not producing babies. And these countries have to adopt pro-natalist policies. If you produce more babies, state gives you more incentive. There are countries like in East Europe where, or even in France, that you have to pay bachelor's tax. If you don't produce babies, you have to pay extra tax because you are not supplying labor power to your economy, because that's the duty that every citizen has. Plus, who is going to look after you in your old age? So these countries are penalizing those who don't produce babies. So we have to understand the state policies and social engineering. In the theory of demographic transition, we all have learned even at undergraduate level that in the first stage of demographic transition, you see very high birth rate and high death rate. We saw that in a pre-industrial Europe also, we have seen this phenomenon that women produce babies till they die. Throughout the reproductive life, women are producing babies. They were producing babies, and there were no contraceptive revolution. There was no public health measure. So even the mortality rate of children was also very high. And because of absence of contraception, women had no other way but to produce babies. With industrialization, we saw a phenomena, separation of women from home to and workplace, because earlier in a pre-industrial phase, women were working from home. There was a household-based production, and after industrial revolution, there was a massive induction of women in the industrial workforce. So they started working, and along with that, because of the technological science and technological development, we also had women could control their reproduction by use of contraception. And we also saw a massive revolution in a public health measure. That means most of the waterborne diseases and most of the diseases, infectious diseases, killer diseases, epidemics such as plague, cholera, typhoid, they were controlled due to closing of gutters. That means mosquitoes were controlled. There was a whole method, scientific method of purification of water. And modern medicine, they brought a situation where the death rate of children declined drastically. So that is a second phase where you have birth rate continues to be high, but death rate reduces. That is the time where you have a more population and everyone is worried, like Malthus was worried about population explosion. But you reach a third stage where education of women, work for women, individualism developing in the people's mind, women becoming more conscious of their rights, also that reduces birth rate, and attitude towards children also changes. In the pre-industrial society, you see child as a labor, you see child as a source of income, and you also see child as a support to old age. While in the modern society, once you have a child, your responsibility increases because you have to invest in child's education, child's career development, and also you for your own future, you depend on your insurance and social security, not on your children. So this classical demographic transition theory, which started with the presumption that all the children are born within marriage and everyone gets married, that has been critiqued by the feminists. You have another explanation for demographic transition, which is called demand theory, which was a Chicago school approach, which talks about the new home economics, which talks about a branch of consumer choice theory, that if a couple is married, where the opportunity cost of husband is highest as a breadwinner, and opportunity cost for woman is highest as a homemaker. But that also was proved wrong, because same study of Gary Becker of 12,000 American couples 20 years down the line showed that all these couples had divorced. Man had moved ahead, and he also had a younger, smarter, more earning woman as a second wife. And women, middle-aged women who were out of the workforce, they had only one asset, that means asset of children who had to be looked after. So Becker's theory that young woman after marriage should be a homemaker also did not prove right. As against that, the gender economists, they said that it is the burden of housework, burden of old age care, and burden of family responsibility should be shouldered equally by each and every member of the family. The concept of sharing of housework, concept of sharing of childcare should be evolved, and the state also should provide more and more facilities where the functions of housework are socialized. State is providing the support. That is a far more rational and economically effective approach. The idea of mother's time, you can't take mother for granted. The whole study of Anne Oakley of London School of Economics, London School of Education, she did the time allocation of housewives, and she imputed the opportunity cost that had this woman who is trained as a scientist, or who is trained as an economist, or one who has done her M.Ed or B.Ed, had she been working instead of looking after the baby, what would she be getting? So you learn to value mother's time. And mother's time is also a valuable commodity. What is the market rate? If she doesn't look after the baby, child will have to be looked after by the baby minder or babysitter. And what would be the cost? In fact, the famous joke in economics is that if a man marries his wife, if man marries his cook, national income will reduce, because as a cook she was getting salary, and while as a wife she doesn't. But that doesn't reduce the value of that woman who does cooking, cleaning and caring. So this kind of a new understanding about demographic transition theory and its implication on childbirth is very important. We also have a theory of demographic transition, which is a combination of economic decision making with social and biological constraints. The whole definition of family has changed. It is not a heterosexual family with man as a breadwinner and husband, wife and nuclear family, but you have a variety of families. You have a lesbian couples, you have a gay couples, you have a heterosexual family, you have a joint family, you have a community of people staying together in elderly people's community, disabled people's community, you have orphans community, those who are youth groups staying together. So it is a very different kind of scenario that you have, plural scenario that you have. So the question of family as a provider of economic security is gone. There are so many other experiments that are taking place in the society. Combination theory also considers the factors which influence supply of children. For example, morality and marriage. You have children born outside the wedlock, you have a live-in couple producing babies, there are so many, even the demand factor in the economy, for example, so many economies, there is such a shortage of young labor that they are giving incentives to women to produce more babies, but incentives in a pro-natalist context has never worked. State intervening to reduce population has worked because they can force poor people with the disincentives for producing more babies. But incentive to produce more babies to educated women has never worked, because educated women, they are articulate, they can verbalize their concern and they are strong-willed. Dominance of economic factor remains in the theories of population, because in the final analysis, all population theories believe that continuous supply of labor power, especially young labor power, results into economic prosperity. Currently we are talking about young population of India. We have more than 45% population of India which is less than 18 years of age. India is going to reap the benefits of population bonus from 1915 to 2015 to 2050, because this is the time where this population will mature, they will contribute to the economy. So 20 years back, the children who were treated as a population bomb, now we consider them as a population bonus, because these children are educated, they are contributing to the economy. IT sector success has also said that if we make a demographic investment in our population, they can ensure double-digit growth for the economy. Now, cultural and normative context of reproduction is also very important. When so-called morality falls, the ideals and beliefs which supported the high fertility decline, they are questioned, and you have a different scenario. Another thing, that any type of economic insecurity, political or war, after every war we have a baby boom. After every disaster we have a baby boom, because disasters and wars and whether man-made disasters or natural disaster, they take a heavy toll of children, and the mindset of the people changes, because this kind of insecurity doesn't allow you to have less number of children, as I gave you the example of tsunami. Even Latur earthquake, we had the same experience, that after the earthquake, families those who had opted for sterilization, they went for recanalization operation, and after that they were not ready again for use of contraception, because they thought that another earthquake may again take away their children. Attempts to unite economic and sociological explanations in demographic theory is a very important new concern, where you are talking about the Caldwell's approach of intergenerational wealth flow. Where is the wealth flowing? Wealth is flowing from children to household, or from adult couples working and bringing money to this thing. So flow of, in a pre-transitional society, in the pre-industrial society, the flow of income is from children to household, because children are useful in economic activity, while in the post-industrial society we see that children are, in a way, you have to spend on children, because the education becomes so commodified. All the necessities of children become extremely commodified, and you have to. So pre-transitional societies have a transfer of wealth from children to parents, and reversal of the flow of wealth transfers is driving force behind fertility decline. So now you ask any modern couple, they would say, no, we will first become economically secure, we will buy our house, we will earn enough, and then we will have 1 or 2 babies. There are so many couples, you have a phenomena where they say that we can't afford to have children. So you have a DINK families. DINK families are double income, no children families. So that is also becoming globally a very, very influential phenomenon. So transition of child-centered nuclear family from individual-centered family, that I care for my figure, I care for my career, I care for my bank balance. So that individualism also results into reduction of children, that we have to understand. Fourth theory in demographic transition is about the diffusion of innovation theories, that the moment you have a science and technological advancement and the galore of new reproductive technologies. Now new reproductive technologies are of 4 types. Okay, they are assisted reproduction, contraception, sex selection, because you have 84 types of conditions, medical conditions, which can create deformed babies. So now the enlightened population they always do sonography or sex selection test to understand whether the fetus is normal or deformed. So that is also there. And the fourth is genomics. The genomics, which has come in a big way in a plant kingdom, is now coming into human kingdom, that there are so many killer diseases like cancer or illnesses of nervous system can be cured by genetic intervention. So these kind of considerations also change your attitude towards population, because instead of producing too many babies who will die of illnesses, why not to have 1 or 2 children, less number of babies, but give them a quality health and quality education and quality life? That is the concern you see becoming more and more prominent among economically well-off sections and even the middle class, things like that. Thank you.